Right, influence. As safety professionals, we need to have influence. You can't make anybody do anything. Okay, you could force somebody to put on their safety glasses. If you didn't lead them and influence them, the minute you walk away, they're going to take them off. Okay, even if it's because they're just rebellious and nobody's going to tell them what to do. Right, so keep that in mind. We want to have integrity. We want to have good character and good self-discipline, and be very competent in the subject matter and the responsibilities and roles that we carry out. And we want to be responsible to do the right thing, but we can't force others to follow us. I read this in a book, and I'll try and remember the name of the book because I can kind of see the cover, but I can't remember the word of it. But you know, a long time ago, I read this book, and it said that no matter how somebody acts towards you, you need to respond consistently, because that's who you are. Not because they deserve it, but because you're, it was a culture of honor. That was what it was. And it was like, you bring a culture of honor with you, and you give honor to other people in how you lead, because that is who you are and who you want to be, not because somebody else necessarily deserves that. And it's just, again, a switch of perspective of how we react. And why are we talking about this with safety professionals? Because we need to have leadership and influence over people to help them be aware of and listen and even be open to change, right? And so we are key influencers within our organization. You may not have a title or official authority given to you in your role, but you sure can, as a key influencer, be an unofficial leader or an influencer of how people behave because of who you are and how you lead, okay? So there's this I guess, process that we go through when we talk about getting people to change. And, you know, a lot of times people try and use force, you know, physical strength to influence others. Do this, or I'm going to beat you up. I know we don't say that at work, but, you know, just as an example, you know, force doesn't get us very far or very quick, right? We can use intimidation, where we bully or verbally or emotionally get people to act in a certain way against their will. Neither one of these are good processes or should ever be a technique that a safety professional uses. But we should recognize those in the field, because it's possible you may see them in the workplace, right? Someone's trying to get a change in behavior and influence people through non-effective means. Manipulation, it starts to get a little more sophisticated. Now people are coercing other people to act or threatening them, and sometimes it's against their will. Or sometimes I call this the exchange. I hate to even use quid pro quo, because it's this for that, but you do your work in this way, and in exchange, I'll take care of you and give you this, right? I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Not really even a good method for us to use in this aspect, but we're getting better in terms of going down the process here. Persuasion, now this is good, right? I'm going to use my communication, my verbal skills, and I'm going to help you logically understand and persuade you why what I want you to do, or I'm trying to get you to do, is a good thing, and why you should take action and follow that, okay? And then these last two are the best, okay? Motivation. I want to energize others so that they want to act. I want to communicate to them why this is, and persuading them why this is so good. I'm motivating them that this is how they want to be and aspire to where they want to aspire to, and get them to change and act in that way. And the last way is I change them through honor. I communicate esteem. I help serve them and help them be better. And doing so, I'm inspiring them to act as well. So just some things to think about in terms of what are the different methods and processes, and which ones are we currently using, where you currently act out of to get change, and why. Maybe doing a little bit of thinking about that. And then how do you move in a different direction, and how do you go gain skills or get more information about how to get into the other areas of this, okay? Some of it's just mental for us. So the telltale sign of a great leader is not what they have accomplished on their own, but what they've been able to accomplish through others. And isn't that true with the safety program? I can have the most beautiful written procedure and process manual in the whole world, but if I can't get anyone to open it or follow me putting it in place, I really haven't accomplished much, okay? So our job is to bring other people alongside us. It's not a one-man game. This is a team effort, okay? And this is a group result. So our role and responsibility as a safety professional, understand what your real job is. We just went through the ANSI technical aspects of what outlined the professional role. But what is our real job? It's leadership. It's being good at the technical aspects of our job, but we also have to be able to motivate and lead and organize and manage and communicate, okay? So know your work. I always get a little bit surprised when I interface with someone, let's say another safety professional, we're talking about issues or we're discussing a job, and they have never read what the contract says. And they don't use the specifications, let's say in construction, for example, or they don't know how to read drawings and blueprints. And they're not using the same tools and resources that everybody else on the job uses to know what's next and what's coming up. They don't know how to read a critical path schedule or a schedule in itself, or take that information and plan and project ahead. Know the work, understand the standard operating procedures and how work gets done with your company and with the groups that you're working with, right? And then know what does the law really say? What does your program say? What are your processes, right? Because if you don't know, how is anybody else supposed to know? And if you don't know, how the heck are you following it, right? So this saying, trust but verify, is so true for us. Don't get in the habit of going off the top of your head. We have so much technology that makes resources available to us. I could look something up on my phone in the field. I do that all the time. Or on my iPad, or I could go call somebody, or I could Zoom or FaceTime. I mean, gosh, it's the possibilities and resources to us today versus what we had, shucks, when I started back in the late 80s, early 90s is, 180 degrees opposite, okay? So do what you say you will do and know what that is. You have a contract that your company signed and said that they'd follow. You have submittals that you put in. You have a safety plan. You have a company safety program. You have hazard analysis. We have regulations. There's so many things that we need to know, okay? What are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? And are you doing it? What are you measuring to, right? So I love this diagram about success. Success is like the tip of the iceberg, and everybody sees, oh, everything's going so well and this is so great. But what's really beneath that and supporting it and holding it up is all the hard work and the persistence and the late night and the rejections or failures and the sacrifices and discipline and criticism and doubts and risks that somebody had to work their way through to keep piling one on top of the other in order to the point where they actually broke the surface and saw success. So don't give up, okay? Our job as a safety professional can be frustrating sometimes, but it is so rewarding when we can actually discover what are we measuring and help other people see how we add value and can help the entire process and project be successful, okay? So what's your area of expertise? What are you competent in or qualified in right now? And what do you want to be competent and qualified in? And again, I talked about safety professionals acting as the competent person. We're really oversight of competent persons in a proper structure, all right? And if you're not in a structure where you're, you're still acting as a competent person, you're not providing oversight, what's your strategy to change understanding and behaviors and move in the right direction? If you just go and say, well, I should only be over people, what's your proof points? What's your research? How is it going to add value to the company to shift how they see your position? right? Let's be strategic in how we approach this and complete. What's your own personal training plan? You know, we talk about training programs to educate workers and supervisors, but let's talk about your career for a second as a safety professional. Where are you at right now, and where do you aspire to be? And what are the pieces that you need to fill in, the learning objectives, the key points, the knowledge elements, the core competencies that you need to achieve to get there? On our hidden web page, which I'll show you in a second, I put a couple good articles from Professional Safety Magazine on just model curriculum for occupational safety and health and how to advance the profession. And I think there's little diamonds in there that could trigger some thought process for you folks. Okay, but where do you want to be, and have it, don't just stay where you're at. Okay, that's the status quo. So what are you going to do to get better? It could be a safety subject, it could be a leadership subject, it could be something on your own organizational skills or your communication skills, whatever it is, okay? What's your own personal plan? And then, you know, make sure that you're sure. If you're talking about something and a subject matter and you don't know, go back and check, right? Think before you speak. Stay in your sandbox, stay in your area of competency and where you're at. And if you feel like, you know, that needs to improve, then what are you going to do to improve it, right? And I saw this saying once as well, you know, be a river, not a reservoir. In this, I just had a meeting this morning where I explained this concept where we're talking about getting businesses back to work in a certain industry. And we talked about let's collaborate with other similar businesses through an association that they all belong to, or even just reaching out and as individual organizations and partnering up with other similar businesses to say, hey, you know, what are we going to do to get ourselves back to work through this COVID thing? And that, you know, we should be sharing best practices and ideas. It's the same for safety in general, because that is for the better good of the whole, right? During the meeting, Nalani also mentioned she had read this saying where, and I'll use it as Lawson as an example, no one person at Lawson is smarter than everyone at Lawson. So no one safety professional is smarter than all safety professionals together. Does that make sense? Or no one person in your company or your department or your crew is smarter than all of our heads put together. Get the idea, right? So share information, be talking about these things. Don't just hold it to yourself, right? We're talking about safety elements that are ethical elements, okay?